This is Malcolm Frazee, Macroeconomics 2013. The number is 30521. There's that view. There's that view. Don't need that now. So starting with employment, the employment rate. In an ideal economy, looking at the principles of macroeconomics, usually a full employment rate is ideal. This does not mean that everyone that is included in the actual labor force is employed year-round. This means that the economy is operating at least at the natural employment rate, which actually includes the natural, structural, and cyclical unemployment rates that are to be expected at any given point within this specific economy, So that means that there is some frictional employment still from people changing jobs or entering the workforce, but the full employment is still considered to be at the natural employment rate, which does include at some level some structural and cyclical unemployment that is due to fluctuations in the natural business cycle. Another ideal sort of key for an economy is low inflation. Inflation generally is the measured general increase in prices across the board over a certain period of time. As inflation inflates the prices naturally, for consumers, their money becomes to be worth less and less as prices increase. So if you continue to make the same salary and your salary does not increase proportionally, a carton of eggs that originally cost $2 and now costs $4, and you are not making a higher salary, you will be able to buy less eggs overall. So therefore, low inflation is something that can really helps prevent that kind of issue, which is much healthier for economy overall. Economic growth, is another really important thing for every economy. Economic growth just really generally is over a period of time and within an economy, the increase in production of goods or services. So when this happens, it has basically always been shown to help with human development, with health, with essentially almost every aspect of human civilization. Economic growth has seemed to improve it for the quality of life for most people, that is. This is usually measured in GDP, or in order to quantify it, that is. Often real GDP to account for inflation, or in the case of large countries, real GDP per capita. So that will show exactly how much economic growth is really going on within the country, but also how that wealth may be distributed in the case of a very large population, or conversely, a very small population in a very rich country. So for GDP itself, gross domestic product, that is, that gross domestic product is basically just the quantification of the value of every good and service that is created domestically within the economy, and these goods and services as they are traded in their finished form, I should say. So that means you create a tire and you sell it to a car company. Obviously, they're going to be using those tires to put it on the car on the assembly line. It's not a finished product as it is going towards a different final product, which would be that car itself that is going to be sold. So the value of that tire would be factored into the value of the car, and not counted twice, or for some other smaller components that they could be counted many times. So these products, they need to be the finished version of the product, and they need to be traded in the actual market so they could be counted. Real GDP, as compared to nominal GDP, accounts for inflation, and as mentioned before, real GDP per capita, or even just normal, just GDP per capita, accounts for the population of a country or within an economy. So that would be the GDP divided by the population. So to show how large, or not, not how large, but how that GDP may be divided among the population as a whole. So for unemployment, the unemployment rate, that is, the unemployment rate within an economy is typically, ideally, kept relatively low, but it is a major indicator of the health of an economy, as obviously people rely on seeking out employment in order to pay for goods and services, and to even employment is necessary to have these services be available, of course. As seen with the curve, which the name of the economist who created the curve, the name escapes me. Somewhat unexpectedly, often it is the case that a high unemployment rate, or a low unemployment rate, actually corresponds with a high inflation rate. So the unemployment rate can really very often be an indicator in that way, that it may show how larger pieces within the economy are interacting and shifting over a period of time based on the inflation rate. The curve does not always take precedent. I mean, it did in the 1970s with stagflation, but it is not completely relevant in every economic situation. But to clarify, unemployment rate itself, that does not include everyone in the total population of an economy that is not employed. It simply is people who are in the actual labor force. So that is, they are old enough and are actively seeking for a job and are able to work. The Consumer Price Index is a very important indicator. Essentially what that is that it may look at a certain, well, it looks at several categories of goods, and it compares the prices of these goods from a base year to whatever future year, or just to show, or calculate, I should say, the rate of inflation across these different categories. So that is, a basket of groceries that cost originally a total of $10 in the base year, in the next year may cost $20, which is relatively high inflation.